Hey guys, what's up? This is Frank from MTG Unlimited, and today I'll be speculating on the future of Standard for the rest of this year, basically. So as you can see on the screen, I have a metagame breakdown for you guys. You can see that 75% of it's aggro, 25% is control, and there's one combo deck, Reanimator, which isn't really a thing. This site puts mono black and mono blue at the top. I kind of disagree with that. I don't think mono black is 25% of the metagame. I think it's significantly less than that now. I think it used to be, but it no longer is. Also, mono blue isn't really as much of a thing anymore. Ever since really Born of the Gods to Journey into Nyx, that season of Standard, mono blue just kind of disappeared from the meta for the most part. There's a lot of Jund aggro, Boros aggro, and red deck wins. Obviously, very heavy aggro decks. These decks are always generally a safe bet just because they are very aggro. You got mono black aggro and Selesnya aggro at 2 and 3% of the meta. I think Selesnya aggro is definitely making somewhat of a comeback with like Loxodon Smiters and Voice of Resurgence, all that kind of stuff. It's good against the new mono black discard deck that's kind of starting to emerge somewhat. Yeah, that's pretty much the meta for this website. I mean, they have mono black aggro. I've never personally faced a mono black aggro. Yeah. So on the next website, you will see this one also puts mono black at the top. However, it only puts it at 17.8% of the metagame, which I think is much more accurate. I think mono black is definitely still the biggest deck in the format, but it is starting to dwindle in the meta a little bit, just because there are so many answers to it now with all the very aggro decks that are emerging. There's a lot of control out there. There's just a lot of things that can counter it. So I think that 17.8% is a much more accurate number. This website puts red deck wins as number 2, 12.9%. I think that's also pretty accurate. Red deck wins is a great deck. It's very fast. It's very hard for decks to keep up with, and it wins very frequently. Jund, I think, is definitely a thing, especially with a lot of M15 cards, like the Planeswalkers, Garruk, and Nissa. Just a lot of new cards that have come out and are making this deck even better than it already was. Naya is definitely a thing, especially Naya Hexproof. That's a very good deck. There's not a lot that decks can do against it, except for really board wiping. It's a great deck, too. Mono blue on this website is at 7.6%. I also think that's more accurate. It's still there. It's still a good deck. It's very aggressive, but it's not definitely where it was before. And then you can see the two control decks, the one control deck, Azorius Control, also very good, with cards like Supreme Verdict, Detention Sphere, things like that. It's a very good control deck. It's why it's 6% of the meta. So looking at this graph that's now on your screen, this takes you through from before M14 all the way to M15. This is standard, and this graph shows a lot about the changes of what's happened to standard in the last year. There's definitely been some crazy changes. As you can see, right when M14 to Theros was coming out, Jund, as some of you might know, was the biggest deck in standard at the time. It was a great deck. And then after Theros, after Innistrad rotated, it plummeted. Jund became almost nothing for several months there for a while. And then you can see mono blue just absolutely exploded. Mono black and mono blue, actually, after Theros Pro Tour. There's so much hype for those decks. Those decks were so good. They emerged as the two top decks in the meta. Mono black would eventually surpass mono blue. Those were great decks for while they lasted, but then there started to emerge a lot of answers to it. Red deck wins was just too fast for those decks to handle. Jund reemerged towards the end of this standard season, and Jund is definitely a great deck. It's got tons of great creatures. It's got a lot of great cards now, and that's definitely making a comeback. The control decks, I think, aren't going to do super well after rotation. A significant amount of the cards in those decks, like Supreme Verdict, Detention Sphere, like I was talking about before, do come from Ravnica block, which, as we all know but don't want to think about, is rotating in right about 2 months, or no, a month and a half now. So I'd say just watch out for Standard. I think there's going to be a ton of changes after rotation. I think there's a lot of decks on that aren't on this graph that will emerge. Like, for example, Mono Green Devotion is going to be ridiculous with cards like Nissa, Polakranos, Sylvan Caryatid, Elvish Mystic. It can ramp into things so quickly. That deck is going to be very aggressive, and it's going to have tons of great creatures. I think that's going to emerge as a Tier 1 deck in the meta. Some other decks that I think will be maybe Tier 2 or 3 decks are the Izzet Artifacts deck that's definitely going to emerge, and Mono Black discard decks. I think they're definitely fun decks to play. I don't know if they're as competitive as these decks, but they're definitely fun to play. So, thanks for watching. If you guys could please like or subscribe. Tomorrow I'll be posting the winners of the giveaway, so watch out for that. Thanks, guys.